Commander Olivia Grant looked out at the massive piles of twisted metal and broken ship parts. The afternoon sun reflected off the heaps of scrap that stretched as far as she could see. This was humanity's generous gift from the Galactic Confederation. Mountains of junk that the advanced alien species had thrown away. "What do they expect us to do with all this?" asked Lieutenant Dan Miller, standing beside her. His usually cheerful face was grim as he kicked a piece of bent metal. "They expect us to fail," Olivia said simply. Her dark hair was pulled back, in a tight bun, and her blue uniform, though worn at the edges, was perfectly pressed. "The Valaxians and the other species don't think we belong in their precious confederation. This scrapyard is their way of saying it without actually saying it." Earth had joined the Galactic Confederation just 3 months ago, the newest and least advanced member by far. The other species, especially the dominant Valaxians, barely hid their contempt for humans. The terms of membership were clear. Earth had 6 months to contribute a battleship to the Confederation fleet, or they would lose their full member status and become a protected planet, which everyone knew meant becoming servants in all but— "Name, Commander!" a voice called from behind them. Frank Russo, Earth's most brilliant engineer, jogged toward them. Unlike Olivia's neat appearance, Frank looked like he had slept in his clothes. His curly brown hair stuck out in all directions and his glasses sat crookedly on his nose, but his eyes sparkled with excitement. "You need to see this," he said, holding up what looked like a broken piece of metal with strange markings. "I've been testing some of these parts. The aliens think they're useless because each piece has small defects, but they're not actually broken. They're just not perfect by their standards." "And?" Olivia asked. "And I think we can use them," Frank said, grinning widely now. "Not just use them. Combine them in ways the aliens never thought of." Dan looked doubtful. "The Confederation has been building ships for centuries. Are you saying they missed something?" Frank nodded eagerly. "That's exactly what I'm saying. Each species specializes in their own technology. They don't share secrets, and they don't try to mix their tech with others. It's all about pride and patents. But we have nothing to lose." Olivia felt a small spark of hope for the first time since they'd been shown the scrapyard. "Show me," she said. Frank led them to a makeshift workshop he had set up near the edge of the scrapyard. Inside, several engineers were working on different pieces of alien technology. In the center of the room stood a strange contraption, a mix of blue crystal-like structures connected to what looked like copper coils. "This," Frank said proudly, "is a combination of a Drenthi shield generator and a Maraxian power cell. Both were thrown away because they had minor flaws. But when you connect them like this—" He flipped a switch, and the device hummed to life. A blue glow spread between the crystals, growing brighter and more stable by the second. "The energy output is 3 times what either system could produce alone," Frank explained. "The flaws in each system actually create a resonance pattern that amplifies both." "Can it power a ship?" Olivia asked, trying to keep her voice steady despite her growing excitement. "Not just power it," Frank said. "This configuration could give us shields stronger than standard Confederation designs. And that's just the beginning." Over the next few days, Olivia brought together Earth's best minds. Joe Hamilton, their top military tactician, joined Frank's engineering team. Together, they began to form a plan that seemed crazy at first. They would build not just any battleship, but one that could outperform the standard Confederation designs. They worked in secret, telling the Valaxian observers only that they were sorting through the materials. The aliens watched with barely hidden smirks as humans hauled pieces around the scrapyard. 1 month into the project, the basic shape of a hull began to form in Earth's orbital shipyard. Unlike the sleek, standardized designs of Confederation vessels, their ship was rough and asymmetrical. "It looks like a monster," Dan said as they observed the construction from a shuttle. "Good," Joe Hamilton replied. He was a tall man with dark skin and serious eyes that missed nothing. "Let them underestimate us. While they're judging our ship's looks, we'll be testing its teeth." The ship had been named Titan, after the powerful beings of Earth's ancient myths. It seemed fitting for a vessel that needed to stand against giants. Work continued day and night. Frank's team discovered more and more ways to combine the alien technologies. They found that the guidance systems from 7 different species could work together to create targeting accuracy that exceeded anything in the Confederation. Power couplings that the Valaxians had discarded as inefficient worked perfectly when paired with modified human circuits. 2 months in, they received their first official inspection. Alan Peterson, a tall, blue-skinned Valaxian with 6 fingers, on each hand walked through the partially built ship with obvious distaste. "Your power distribution system is completely unorthodox," he noted, "and your hull design violates every principle of space aerodynamics." "We're working with what we have," Olivia said calmly, not revealing how their unorthodox approach was actually an advantage. "Indeed," Peterson said with a thin smile. "I will report to the Confederation that you are making an effort, though I must be honest, Commander Grant. No one expects this vessel to pass the minimum requirements for admission to the fleet." After he left, Joe found Olivia staring out at the stars through a viewport in what would become the ship's bridge. "He's right about one thing," Joe said. "No one expects much from us." "Good," Olivia replied. "Surprise is one of the oldest advantages in warfare." By the 3-month mark, the Titan systems were starting to come online. Samantha Cole, a quiet woman who had been the top AI programmer on Earth, had created an integrated system that could learn and adapt faster than any Confederation computer. "The aliens keep their AIs limited," she explained during a briefing. "They're afraid of giving them too much freedom, but our AI will be different, able to adjust shield frequencies during battle and predict enemy movements before they happen." "Is it safe?" Olivia asked. Samantha nodded. "It has limits built in. It can't hurt humans or change its core mission, but within those boundaries, it can think creatively." Just like us, Olivia thought. Limited resources, but freedom to be creative within those limits. As the 4th month began, tensions rose. The Titan was taking shape, but they were behind schedule. The crew worked around the clock, sleeping in shifts. Frank hardly slept at all, moving from one section of the ship to another, solving problems and implementing new ideas. "We're going to make it," Olivia told her team during a rare moment when they were all together. "Not just make it, we're going to show the Confederation what humans can do." They all knew what was at stake, not just their pride, but Earth's future. If they failed, their planet would become little more than a colony world. If they succeeded, well, that remained to be seen. What none of them expected was that they would get their chance to prove themselves much sooner than planned. As the Titan's main systems came online and testing began, an emergency signal reached Earth Space Command. The mining colony on Proxima 4 was under attack by Dreth raiders, and the Titan was the only military vessel within range. "We're not ready," Dan protested during the emergency meeting. "Half our systems are still being calibrated." "The colony has over 3,000 people," Joe said quietly. "If we don't help, they die." Olivia looked around at her team, tired, worried, but determined. "Prepare the Titan for launch," she ordered. "We're about to find out if all our hard work paid off." As they rushed to their stations, Frank caught up with Olivia in the corridor. "The shields will hold," he promised. "And I've got a few surprises ready for those raiders." Olivia nodded. "Let's hope they're enough." Within hours, the Titan broke orbit. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't finished. But as it accelerated toward its first battle, everyone watching knew one thing for sure. It was uniquely human. The Titan moved through space toward the mining colony on Proxima 4. The ship's engines hummed steadily, but inside the crew worked frantically to finish systems that weren't ready. "Status report," Commander Olivia Grant ordered, sitting in the captain's chair on the bridge. "Shields at 68% capacity," Frank Russo said from the engineering station. His fingers moved quickly over the controls. "Not ideal, but they'll hold." "Weapons?" Olivia asked. Kevin Marsh, a young officer with steady hands and calm nerves, looked up from the weapons console. "Main gun's operational, but targeting is still rough. We'll have to aim carefully." "I'm working on it," Samantha Cole said. Her face was lit by the glow of multiple screens as she fine-tuned the ship's AI systems. The integration between the Zendari targeting array and the Valaxian pulse cannons needs more calibration. Olivia nodded. It wasn't perfect, but it would have to do. How long until we reach Proxima 4? 43 minutes, Dan Miller replied from the navigation station. The crew continued their preparations as the Titan raced to help the colony. Every minute counted. Raiders were known for their speed. They would strike quickly, take what they wanted, and leave before help could arrive. 30 minutes later, a voice came over the communication system. This is Mining Colony Proxima 4. Is anyone receiving our distress call? The raiders have breached our outer defenses. We have injured people. Olivia leaned forward. This is Commander Grant of the Earthship Titan. We are approaching your position. Hold on. Earthship? The colony administrator sounded shocked. We requested Confederation help. We are part of the Confederation, Olivia said firmly. And we're the only ones close enough to help you. There was a pause. Understood, please hurry. As they approached the colony, Joe Hamilton studied the tactical display. I count 3 raider ships, standard Dreth attack formation. The raiders were known throughout the Eclipse galaxy. They attacked remote outposts, stole resources, and sometimes took people for ransom. Their ships were fast and well-armed. They haven't spotted us yet, Joe said. That gives us an advantage. Not for long, Frank warned. Our engine signature isn't standard Confederation. They'll notice us soon. Olivia considered their options. Let's make that work for us. They won't know what we're capable of. She turned to Kevin at the weapons station. Target the lead ships. Engines only. We want to disable, not destroy if possible. Yes, Commander, Kevin replied, focusing intently on his console. The Titan moved closer, approaching from behind the small moon that orbited Proxima 4. The raider ships were focused on the colony, firing at its defensive shields and preparing to land. We're in range, Kevin announced. Fire, Olivia ordered. The pulse cannons fired. The energy beams looked different from standard Confederation weapons. They had a bluish tint instead of the usual red. The shot hit the lead raider ship near its engine section. For a moment, nothing happened. Then sparks flew from the raider ship's engines. It lurched to one side and began drifting. Direct hit, Kevin exclaimed. Their main engine is offline. Furier. Other 2 raider ships quickly turned to face the new threat. They clearly hadn't expected to encounter a warship. They're scanning us, Joe reported, trying to figure out what we are. Let them wonder, Olivia said. Samantha, how's our AI doing? Learning with every second, Samantha replied. It's already identified weak points in their shield configuration. The raiders made their decision. Both ships fired at the Titan at the same time. Brace for impact, Olivia called out. The shots hit the Titan's shields. The bridge shook, but less than expected. Shield status? Olivia asked. Frank looked surprised. Holding at 63%. That resonance pattern between the Drenthi crystals and Meraxian cells is working even better than I thought. Their weapons are actually strengthening the field at the point of impact. Can we use that? Joe asked quickly. Frank nodded. If we can get them to hit the same spot twice. Kevin, target the ship on the left, Olivia ordered. Samantha, feed shield data to navigation. Dan, I need you to position us so they hit exactly where Frank needs them to. The crew moved with purpose. The Titan turned, presenting its side to the raiders. It looked like a mistake to expose more surface area, but it was deliberate. The raiders took the bait and fired again. Their shots hit the same shield section. Shield power at 70% and rising, Frank reported excitedly. The energy is feeding back into our systems. Now, Kevin, Olivia ordered. The Titan's weapons fired again. This time, the modified pulse cannons were even stronger, charged by the raiders' own attacks. The beam cut through the left raider ship's shields and hit its weapon systems. Secondary explosions rippled across its hull. The damaged ship began to retreat. The third raider, seeing both its companions crippled, fired one last desperate volley before turning to flee as well. The final shots hit the Titan's hull where the shields were weakest. The ship shuddered violently. Damage report, Olivia called out as the lights flickered. Hull breach on deck 3, Frank reported. Emergency. Containment is holding. 2 injured crew members. Get them to the medical bay, Olivia ordered. Status of the raiders? All 3 are retreating, Joe confirmed. They're jumping to FTL. They've had enough. A cheer went up on the bridge. Their first battle, and they had won against 3 enemy ships despite being unfinished and untested. Colony. Proxima V. This is the Titan, Olivia said over the communication system. The raiders have been driven off. What assistance do you need? Titan, we have wounded and damaged to our life support systems, the administrator replied, sounding much more respectful now. Any help would be appreciated. We'll send teams right away, Olivia promised. As the Titan moved into orbit around the colony, news of the battle was already spreading. A human ship, built from scraps, had defeated 3 Dreth Raider vessels. It seemed impossible. When the Confederation officials received the report, they were skeptical. The Valaxian High Command insisted there must be some mistake or exaggeration. No patchwork human vessel could defeat experienced raiders. It had to be luck or poor piloting by the Dreth. But the colonists on Proxima 4 knew the truth. They had seen the strange-looking ship with its uneven hull and mismatched parts come to their rescue when no one else would. 3 days later, as the Titan prepared to leave the colony after helping with repairs, the administrator invited Commander Grant to a small ceremony. We want to thank you properly, she said, presenting Olivia with a plaque made from local minerals. The Confederation has ignored our requests for better protection for years. You came when we needed help even though your ship wasn't ready. Olivia accepted the gift. We're still finding our place in the galaxy, she said. But we understand what it means to make do with what you have. As the Titan left orbit, word of its unexpected victory continued to spread. The story grew with each telling, sometimes becoming more fantastic than reality, sometimes closer to the truth than the official Confederation reports would admit. Back on the bridge, Olivia looked at her tired but proud crew. This was just the beginning, she told them. We've proven the concept, but we still have work to do. The Titan isn't finished yet. Neither are we, Frank said with a grin, already sketching new modifications on his tablet. The ship that had been built from alien scrap had taken its first step toward becoming a legend, and the species that had looked down on humans were about to learn an important lesson about underestimating the newcomers to the Eclipse galaxy. The Titan docked at Earth's orbital station 2 weeks after the battle at Proxima 4. The ship looked even stranger now, with patches covering the damaged sections and new components added during their return journey. But no one was laughing anymore. A crowd gathered to welcome them home. News of their victory against the Dreth Raiders had reached Earth days ago. People cheered as Commander Olivia Grant and her crew stepped off the ship. They were being called heroes. Among those waiting was a tall Valaxian official. Alan Peterson's blue skin seemed paler than usual, and his expression was tight. Commander Grant, he said, giving a stiff bow. The Confederation Council requests your presence at a special hearing. They wish to discuss your encounter with the Dreth Raiders. When? Olivia asked. 3 days from now at Confederation headquarters, Peterson replied. A transport will be provided. After he left, Joe Hamilton moved to Olivia's side. They don't believe we did it, he said quietly. Or they're worried that we did. Then we'll show them the Titan's logs, Olivia replied. The truth is in the data. The 3 days passed quickly. The crew worked around the clock to repair the Titan and implement new improvements based on what they had learned during the battle. Frank rarely left the engine room, testing one new configuration after another. The power coupling we salvaged from the Raiders' damaged ship works perfectly with our hybrid system, he told Olivia during a brief meeting. It's like finding the missing piece of a puzzle we didn't know was incomplete. On the morning of the hearing, Olivia, Frank, Joe, and Samantha boarded a sleek Confederation transport. The journey to the massive space station that served as Confederation headquarters took only hours, though it was many times farther than Proxima 4. Their drive technology is amazing, Frank whispered, studying everything he could see. Imagine what we could do with even a partial understanding of how it works. The hearing chamber was large and circular, with seats rising in tiers around the central floor. Representatives from all 27 Confederation species filled the room. The humans were the newest members, and their section was the smallest. The head of the council, a tall, thin Valaxian named Thordax, opened the session. "We are here to review the actions of the Earth vessel Titan during the incident at Proxima 4, he announced. "Specifically, we need to determine if the reports are accurate." For the next 2 hours, Olivia and her team presented their evidence. They showed sensor logs, damage reports, and communications records. Frank explained their unique shield configuration and how they had combined different technologies. Samantha demonstrated how their integrated AI system had adapted during the battle. "It is unconventional," one council member admitted. "It violates multiple Confederation design protocols," another added. "But it worked," Joe pointed out. 3 raider ships were defeated and the colony was saved. "Isn't that the purpose of a Confederation vessel?" the council members murmured among themselves. Olivia could see they were uncomfortable with the idea that humans had succeeded using methods that went against centuries of their established practices. Finally, Thordax spoke again. "While your methods are unorthodox, the results cannot be disputed. The Titan will be recognized as a Confederation vessel, fulfilling Earth's membership requirement." It was a victory, but a small one. Olivia could tell from the council's tone that they viewed the Titan as a curiosity, not a legitimate achievement. As they left the chamber, a short, round alien approached them. His skin was orange, and his 4 eyes blinked independently of each other. "Commander Grant," he said in a wheezing voice. "I am Zahn, representative of the Drenthi people. Your use of our shield technology is interesting. My government would like to speak with you privately." "About what?" Olivia asked. "About possibilities," Zahn replied, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. "Not all of us are satisfied with Valaxian dominance in the Confederation. Your ship represents an alternative approach." Before Olivia could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors, and a computerized voice announced, "All personnel to emergency stations. Unidentified vessels approaching. This is not a drill." "What's happening?" Frank asked a passing Confederation officer. "A fleet of ships just appeared near the outer defense perimeter," the officer replied hurriedly. "They're not responding to hails and are approaching fast." The humans rushed to the command center along with other Confederation officials. The large view screen showed a group of 15 ships moving toward the station. "They're using stealth technology," a Valaxian commander said. "Our sensors didn't detect them until they were almost on top of us." "Who are they?" someone asked. "Unknown," the commander replied. "But their weapons are powered and targeting our defenses." "Where is the Confederation fleet?" Thordax demanded. "The nearest defensive group is 3 hours away," came the response. "We've sent out a distress call, but..." The station shook as the first shots hit its shields. "Shields at 80%, a technician reported. They're targeting our defensive batteries." Olivia studied the tactical display. The attacking ships were moving in a coordinated pattern she had never seen before. "These aren't raiders," she said. "This is a military operation." "Impossible," Thordax declared. "No single species would dare attack Confederation headquarters." "What if it's not a single species?" Joe suggested. "What if it's a coalition?" As if answering his question, a message came through on all communication channels. A masked figure appeared on the screen. "Greetings, Confederation Council. I am Admiral Zorax speaking for the Syndicate. For too long, the Confederation has claimed to represent all species while actually serving the interests of only a few. Today that changes." Murmurs of fear spread through the command center. The Syndicate was supposed to be just a rumor, a coalition of rebel factions from multiple species who opposed Confederation rule. "We have only one ship here," Olivia said, looking at the Valaxian commander. "The Titan." The commander scoffed. "One unfinished human vessel against 15 warships, it would be suicide." "Maybe," Frank said, stepping forward. But our unfinished vessel has a few surprises they won't expect. And surprise is sometimes the best weapon. Thordax looked at the humans, then at the view screen showing the approaching enemy fleet. Another blast rocked the station. Shields at 60%. The technician reported nervously. Thordax turned to Olivia. What can your ship do, Commander? We won't know until we try, she answered honestly. But we're willing to try. 10 minutes later, the Titan detached from the station and moved toward the attacking fleet. The human crew had been joined by Zahn, the Drenthi representative who offered his knowledge of shield technology, and 2 Zendari engineers who had been intrigued by the humans' approach to weapon systems. This is either the bravest or most foolish thing I've ever seen, Joe said as they took their positions on the bridge. Sometimes those are the same thing, Olivia replied. She looked at her crew, human and alien working side by side. Let's show the Syndicate what happens when different species actually work together, instead of just talking about it. As the Titan moved toward the enemy fleet, Confederation headquarters watched in stunned silence. No one believed the strange human ship could make a difference against such overwhelming odds. But then again, no one had believed it could defeat 3 Dreth Raiders either. The battle for Confederation headquarters was about to begin, and the Titan, the ship built from scraps, was the only thing standing between the Syndicate and their goal. The Titan moved toward the 15 Syndicate ships attacking Confederation headquarters. On the bridge, Commander Olivia Grant watched the enemy vessels grow larger on the view screen. They were arranged in a perfect attack formation. They're not even breaking formation to deal with us, Joe Hamilton noted. They don't see us as a threat. Good, Olivia said. Samantha, what has the AI learned about their shield configurations? Samantha Cole's fingers moved quickly over her console. Their shields are strongest at the front. Standard confederation. Doctrine puts less power to the rear shield since fleet vessels are supposed to protect each other's backs. And these ships were built using Confederation designs, even if they've modified them, Frank Russo added from the engineering station. They'll follow the same basic principles. Zahn, the Drenthi representative who had joined them, moved his 4 eyes independently, studying different screens at once. Your approach is fascinating, he wheezed. In the Confederation, each species guards its technical knowledge. No one would think to analyze shield patterns across different designs to find common weaknesses. We didn't have a choice, Frank replied with a smile. When you build from scraps, you have to understand how everything works together. The Titan continued forward. Some of the Syndicate ships were now breaking off from attacking the station to turn toward them. 3 ships moving to intercept us, Kevin Marsh reported from the weapons console. They're charging weapons. Let them come, Olivia ordered, but don't engage until my command. Dan, take us on course Vector 7. Vector 7 confirmed, Dan Miller acknowledged, guiding the Titan toward a field of space debris left over from previous construction around the station. The debris field wasn't large, but it was dense enough to affect sensors and complicate targeting. The Titan slipped into it using the floating metal and rock fragments for partial cover. Commander, one of the Zendari engineers said, we can modify your weapons to create an electromagnetic pulse that will be amplified by the metallic debris around us. Frank looked up sharply. That would affect our systems too. Yes, the Zendari agreed. But we could create a buffer using the Drenthi shield technology. Their ships won't be prepared for that combination. Olivia nodded. Do it. How long? 10 minutes, Frank estimated after conferring with Zahn and the Zendari. We may not have 10 minutes, Joe warned. Those ships will be in optimal firing range in 8. Then we'll have to buy some time, Olivia said. Kevin, target the lead ship. Aim for their sensors only, we just need to distract them. The Titan's weapons fired. The modified pulse cannon sent a burst of energy that hit the lead Syndicate ship's sensor array, causing it to flicker. Direct hit, Kevin reported. Their sensors will be recalibrating. The enemy ships responded immediately, firing multiple weapons. Most of the shots hit debris or missed entirely due to sensor interference. 2 minutes to firing range, Joe reported. They're spreading out to surround us. Status on the modifications? Olivia asked. Almost there, Frank called back. We need to route more power to the shield generators. The ship shook as a shot connected with their shields. Shields holding at 82%, Dan reported. They've targeted our position, Samantha warned. Their next volley will be more accurate. Olivia made a quick decision. Dan, full thrust, take us directly toward the lead ship. Directly? At them? Dan questioned, but his hands were already moving over the controls. They won't expect it, Olivia explained. And we need to be closer for the pulse to work. The Titan shot forward, bursting from the debris field and accelerating toward the lead syndicate ship. The enemy vessel tried to adjust its weapons, but the sudden change in tactics caught them off guard. We're in range, Frank announced. Modifications complete. All power to shields, Olivia ordered. Fire the pulse on my mark. She paused, watching as they closed the final distance. Now, the Titan released the modified electromagnetic pulse. It spread outward, amplified by the metallic debris they had just left behind. The pulse washed over the closest syndicate ships, causing their systems to flicker and fail. The Titan shuddered as the pulse affected their systems too, but the modified shields Frank and Zahn had created protected their critical components. 3. Enemy ships disabled, Joe reported as power returned to their systems. But the others are still coming, and they won't fall for the same trick twice, Olivia acknowledged. Samantha, what's the status of our targeting AI? It's been analyzing their movement patterns, Samantha replied. It's identified a communication lag between the lead ships and the rest of the fleet. There's a half-second vulnerability when they receive new orders. That's not much time, Joe said. It's enough, Olivia decided. Kevin, target their communication arrays. Dan, prepare for maximum maneuverability. We're going to hit them during that lag. The Titan began a series of complex maneuvers, darting between enemy ships and firing precisely at their communication systems. Each shot was timed to the half-second vulnerability Samantha's AI had identified. On the Confederation station, officials watched in amazement as the single human vessel executed maneuvers that should have been impossible for its size and shape. What are they doing? Thordax asked, staring at the tactical display. I believe, a Meraxian scientist replied slowly. They are exploiting a flaw in standard Confederation communication protocols. A flaw we've known about but considered too minor to address. Minor? Thordax repeated as another syndicate ship lost power. The battle continued for nearly an hour. The Titan couldn't defeat all 15 ships, but it didn't need to. Its goal was to disrupt their attack until Confederation reinforcements arrived. 4. Syndicate ships were now completely disabled. 3 more had significant damage. The remaining 8 had pulled back into a defensive formation, focusing as much on protecting themselves from the unpredictable human vessel as on attacking the station. Confederation fleet will arrive in 20 minutes, Joe announced, reading an incoming transmission. We may not have 20 minutes, Frank warned. Our shield generators are overheating from the constant adjustment. We can't take much more. As if to emphasize his point, a direct hit rocked the Titan. Sparks flew from several consoles and the lights flickered. Shields down to 30%, Dan reported. The view screen showed the 8 remaining syndicate ships regrouping. At their center was a larger vessel that had stayed back from the fight until now. That must be Admiral Zorax's flagship, Joe said. It's moving forward. The flagship was twice the size of the other vessels, with weapons emplacements covering its hull. It moved deliberately toward the Titan. We can't match that firepower, Kevin said, his voice tense. Olivia studied the situation. Their shields were failing, and they were outnumbered. But they had come too far to give up. Frank, do we still have that Dreth power coupling we salvaged? She asked suddenly. Yes, Frank replied, but it's not integrated into our systems. Could we use it to create a power surge in our main cannon? Something unexpected? Frank exchanged looks with Zahn and the Zendari engineers. It's possible, but extremely risky. We'd need to redirect all remaining shield power. Which means we'd be completely vulnerable, Joe pointed out. For how long? Olivia asked. 30 seconds to redirect the power, maybe 10 seconds to fire. Before the systems overload, Frank estimated. Olivia looked at her crew. That's our best chance, let's do it. As Frank and the alien engineers worked frantically to modify the weapons system, the Titan faced the approaching flagship. The remaining Syndicate ships moved to flank them. 15 minutes until Confederation reinforcements arrive, Joe reported. We need to last 5 more minutes, Olivia said. Then we take our shot. The Titan began its most desperate maneuver yet, a direct confrontation with Admiral Zorax and his flagship. The Titan faced Admiral Zorax's massive flagship. On the view screen, the enormous vessel looked like a predator stalking its prey. The 7 other Syndicate ships moved to surround the Titan, cutting off any escape routes. Time to Confederation. Reinforcements? Olivia asked, her voice steady despite the dire situation. 12 minutes, Joe replied. We need to hold out until then. Frank worked frantically with Zahn and the Zendari engineers. They had rerouted power cables and modified connections to prepare for their desperate plan. Almost ready? Frank called out. But remember, once we redirect shield power, we'll be completely vulnerable for at least 30 seconds. Then we need to make sure they're not in position to hit us during those 30 seconds, Olivia said. She turned to Samantha. What has the AI learned about their attack patterns? Samantha studied her console. There's a 3-second delay between their targeting systems locking on and their weapons firing. Also, their ships turn slightly before firing to align their main weapons. We can use that, Olivia decided. Dan, when I give the order, take us directly at the flagship, then execute a hard roll to port on my mark. Understood, Dan said, his hands hovering over the controls. Everyone else, secure your stations. This will be rough, Olivia warned. A message came through on the main communication channel. Admiral Zorax's masked face appeared on a section of the view screen. Human vessel, he said, his voice distorted. You have fought well, but foolishly. Surrender now, and I will spare your crew. Continue to resist, and you will be destroyed. This is Commander Olivia Grant of the Earthship Titan. We don't surrender to bullies no matter how big their ships are. Zorax's mask hid his expression, but his voice hardened. Then you will die as an example to others who defy the Syndicate. All ships target the human vessel. Fire at will. Now, Dan, Olivia ordered. The Titan surged forward, accelerating directly toward the massive flagship. The sudden move caught the Syndicate ships by surprise. They had expected the damaged vessel to retreat, not attack. They're targeting us, Joe reported as warning signals flashed across his console. Stand by, Olivia said, watching the distance close between them and the flagship. She could see the slight turn of the enemy ships as they aligned their weapons. Mark! Dan executed the hard roll to port. The Titan spun away from its direct course just as multiple energy beams cut through the space where they had been moments before. Status of the modifications? Olivia asked. Ready, Frank replied. But we'll only get one shot at this. Redirect. All shield power to the main cannon, Olivia ordered. Warning klaxons blared throughout the ship as the shield generators went offline. Every bit of power was channeled into the weapon system. The lights dimmed and non-essential systems shut down. Power transfer complete, Frank announced. Main cannon charged to 180% of maximum. The containment field won't hold for long. 10 seconds until the Syndicate ships reposition for another volley, Joe warned. Target the flagship's command center, Olivia ordered. Fire when ready. Kevin's hands moved across the weapons console. Firing. The Titan shuddered as the massively overcharged weapon fired. The beam that erupted from the main cannon was unlike anything they had fired before. It wasn't the usual blue color of their modified pulse cannons, but a blinding white light that seemed to distort the space around it. The beam struck the flagship's forward section, directly where the command center was located. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the flagship's shields flared and collapsed. The beam continued through, cutting deep into the vessel. Secondary explosions rippled across the flagship's hull. Its lights flickered and it began to drift. Direct hit, Kevin exclaimed. Their primary systems are offline. Restore shields, immediately, Olivia ordered. Working on it, Frank replied, his fingers flying over the engineering controls. The power transfer caused damage to the relays, rerouting through secondary systems. The 7 remaining Syndicate ships seemed confused. Without orders from their flagship, some continued to target the Titan, while others moved to protect the damaged command vessel. 5 minutes until Confederation reinforcements arrive, Joe reported. Our shields won't be back online by then, Frank warned. The best I can give. You is partial coverage on our port side. Then that's what we'll use, Olivia decided. Dan, position us so our port side faces the most immediate threats. Samantha, have the AI calculate the minimum power needed to disrupt their targeting systems. Already on it, Samantha replied. We can create interference using the communication array. It won't stop their weapons, but it might throw off their aim. The Titan moved into position, its damaged port side facing the enemy ships. The partial shield flickered into existence, a thin blue barrier between them and destruction. 3 Syndicate vessels fired. 2 shots went wide, their targeting affected by Samantha's interference. The third grazed the Titan's shields, causing them to flicker dangerously. Shield power down to 15%, Frank reported. 1 more direct hit and they're gone. 2 minutes to reinforcements, Joe said. The Syndicate ships regrouped, preparing for a coordinated attack that would overwhelm the Titan's remaining defenses. But before they could fire, a new voice came over the communication system. This is Captain Nathan West of the Confederation vessel Intrepid. Stand down and prepare to be boarded or we will open fire. On the view screen, a fleet of Confederation ships appeared, dropping out of faster-than-light travel. There were at least 20 vessels, all with weapons ready. The Syndicate ships immediately began to scatter, some attempting to flee while others surrendered. Admiral Zorax's damaged flagship made no attempt to escape. Its systems were too badly damaged by the Titan's desperate attack. On the bridge of the Titan, the crew let out a collective breath of relief. They had survived against impossible odds. Did it? Dan said quietly. You did more than survive, Zahn told them, his 4 eyes blinking with what they had learned was a Drenthi expression of respect. You've changed everything. 2 hours later, Olivia stood in the main conference room of Confederation headquarters with Frank, Joe, and Samantha. The rest of the Titan's crew were helping with repairs to their ship. Before them stood Thordax, and the entire Confederation Council. Commander Grant, Thordax began, his tone formal but lacking its usual condescension. The Confederation owes you and your crew a debt. Your actions saved this station, and possibly the entire Confederation. The Syndicate's attack was well planned, and would have succeeded if not for your intervention. We did what any Confederation vessel would do, Olivia replied. But that's just it, a Meraxian council member said. No standard Confederation vessel could have done what the Titan did. Your unorthodox methods proved more effective than centuries of our standardized designs. The Titan was born from necessity, Frank explained. When you only have scraps to work with, you learn to see possibilities others might miss. Thordax nodded, slowly. Perhaps there is wisdom in that approach. The Confederation has become rigid in its thinking. The Syndicate exploited weaknesses we refuse to acknowledge. The Council has voted, another member announced. The Titan will be recognized not just as a valid Confederation vessel, but as the first of a new class. We would like to propose a joint development program, with Earth leading the integration of technologies across species. Olivia looked at her team, seeing the pride in their eyes. From a pile of scraps they had built not just a ship, but a new future for Earth in the Confederation. 6 months later, the newly refitted Titan led a fleet of vessels built using the same integrative principles. What had once been mocked as a patchwork monstrosity was now the template for the most advanced ships in the Confederation. As they prepared for their next mission, Olivia stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars. The ship that had been built from alien scrap had become the most feared battleship in the Eclipse galaxy, and the species that had once looked down on humans now sought their partnership. Ready for departure, Commander, Dan reported from the navigation station. Take us out, Olivia ordered. We've got a lot more to show the galaxy. The Titan moved forward into the stars, no longer a desperate gamble, but a symbol of what could be achieved when innovation met necessity. They had been given scrap and they had built a legend.